Hello, and welcome to today's video. Today, I want to talk to you about one of my secret weapons against SIBO, and this is the probiotic suppository. So, in case you don't know what suppository is a type of medicine or supplement, or it's basically something that you put up your butt. So, what we're talking about with a probiotic suppository is a probiotic that you administer rectally up your bum, and therefore it directly influences your colon and the colonic flora. And this way we actually bypass the small intestine. So if you've watched any of my other videos talking about gut health, talking about SIBO, you know probiotics come at like absolute essential S tier level of support as far as microbiome restoration and recovery from SIBO. But I understand that some people have a concern that you can't take probiotics if you have SIBO, because in the name SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, would make you think that we have too many bacteria in the small intestine, so we shouldn't take any more bacteria and put any more bacteria in the small intestine. So I actually think that this is flawed. The reason behind this is that, first of all, SIBO tends to be characterized by an overgrowth of one or a very small number of specific microbes and an overall lack or a reduction in diversity of the overall microbiome, especially in the small intestine. And the only way that you're going to fix that, the only way that you're going to improve that overall diversity is by introducing more microbes, more different types of varieties of microbes. But there are a small subset of individuals that have a very small oral tolerance, as in they're able to take probiotics to a certain extent, and then if they take any more than that, then they get an increase in SIBO-associated symptoms, so like upper GI bloating, gas, abdominal pain. And in this case, pushing your numbers higher is not going to be very helpful, because it shows us that even though it is important that we have probiotics and that we try to improve the diversity of the microbiome in the small intestine, there is an upper limit of what you're currently able to tolerate. But we do still need to try to increase your overall microbiome health. And one way we can do this is we can bypass the small intestine. When we administer probiotics rectally, we can get the probiotics into the colon, which is the place where we actually have the most bacteria overall. And what I find exceptionally amazing is the fact that when we administer these rectally, they actually have a beneficial impact on the small intestine directly. So there are actually many compounds that are produced in the colon that can then absorb through the gut lining into the bloodstream and then be redeposited from the bloodstream back to the small intestine. This even includes certain compounds that influence the digestive function in the upper part of the small intestine. So this can potentially affect your stomach acid, your digestive enzymes, your bile, which are all important in basically beating SIBO. But what I found most interesting of all is that the colonic or the rectal administration of probiotics can significantly influence your regulation of your immune and nervous systems, both of which really essentially foundationally important in recovering from something like SIBO. But what I found most interesting, and this is something that I actually experienced firsthand, was that the rectal administration of probiotics, I've actually done this, was a part of my healing process, can actually improve the motility in the small intestine. Now, don't ask me for the science on that, because it doesn't exist. There isn't much data about these kinds of things. But I have seen this firsthand, and I've seen it with a good handful of my clients as well. And this is because your digestive system is not supposed to be sterile. It's supposed to have microbes. Your microbiome is basically like an organ. And if you're missing the correct species and enough of a variety and diversity in your microbiome, it's like you're missing an organ and you don't have spare parts. You need all of your organs for you to function and to be healthy. And sure, maybe someone gets their gallbladder out or their appendix or their tonsils. Yes, you can survive, but that doesn't mean that your body is not missing having those parts. But if you were to say, like, remove your liver or to completely remove your kidneys, you can't survive. Your microbiome is just as important. If you take a rat or a mouse and you sterilize it, so you remove all of its microbiome, it will die. It will have hemorrhagic inflammation in the digestive system. Its sleep will be disturbed. It can't function. It will die. So the composition of our microbiome and the microbiome itself should be considered an organ. And I'm sure you will see that in the coming years, science will consider the microbiome its own organ, because it is fundamentally important and it does several core essential functions that we cannot live without. So if, because of a SIBO presentation, maybe you've taken antibiotics, maybe you've been doing a lot of antimicrobials, you probably damaged your microflora, and you had probably low FODMAP diet, avoiding lots of fibers. And I get it, fibers can be really harsh, they can be aggressive, especially if SIBO, they don't make you feel good. But this starves the colonic flora. So we can use rectal administrations of probiotics to, one, provide extra probiotic support, but two, to completely bypass the small intestine so we don't exacerbate any of these symptoms. If you are still of the mindset that taking probiotics when you have SIBO doesn't make sense, I mean, I completely disagree with that, but that's beside the point. This way, it doesn't even matter. It's completely beside the point, because this way we can still get microbes in, especially into one of the places that's most important, being the colon, and we completely bypass the small intestine. So how do we do this? Well, what I used to do is I actually use the probiotics that I've recommended. So the D-lactate-free probiotic and the 11-stream probiotic. I like using these because these are powders and they don't have any additives or fillers, so they're very high potency. And I would dissolve these into a very small amount of liquid, like 10, 15, 20 milliliters of roughly 38 degrees centigrade, 100 degrees Fahrenheit water. And what I would actually do was I would incorporate this as a part of my coffee enema routine. So I would do a coffee enema, and then I would do a probiotic retention. So I would actually use, you can find these on Amazon. You can look for they're called rectal syringes, or you could also search for like anal lube applicator. You can use these work perfectly fine. You could even use your enema kit, that would also work, but it can be a bit more difficult because we're using a very small quantity of liquid here, very, very small, because we want to retain it. We're not going to expel it like we do with an enema. We're going to hold this liquid inside. And this means those probiotics are going to have a chance to do their jobs, to adhere to the gut lining and to migrate, hopefully, all the way through the large intestine. I did this. I've used this with many of my clients. One thing I find really interesting is that the tolerance to a rectal administration of probiotics is completely different from an oral administration. So if you feel like you've tried probiotics, you can't make much progress, you're intolerant, even starting on really small doses, if you use them rectally, you might find that you can make a significantly higher amount of progress. This is because the small intestine is a very sensitive tissue. And this is where leaky gut really happens. Leaky gut doesn't happen so much in the colon. It's more about the small intestine. And this is why having these small intestinal problems like SIBO and stuff is connected to histamine intolerance, mast cell activity, lots of different sorts of food sensitivities, liver problems, metabolic disorders, because the small intestine is much more biologically active. So in the long run, it is still important that we work the microbiome with the small intestine. That is the place that we need to find improvements if we want to heal all of those above mentioned problems, all leaky gut associated things, including autoimmunity, histamine intolerance, mast cell activation syndrome, food sensitivities, etc., etc. But the colonic microflora does have a huge influence on many other aspects of our health. So for example, when I was doing this, when I would use a rectal administration of probiotics, this gave me a significant improvement in chronic fatigue-based symptoms. This also really helped me with my sleep and my mood. And what's very funny is taking probiotics orally would make those things all much, much worse, whereas taking them rectally improved them all significantly. So I ended up with a double-pronged approach, so oral and rectal administration of probiotics. They both do a different thing. They both serve a different purpose. If you are able to take a high dose orally, you're probably okay. And when I say high dose, we're talking upwards of 200 billion plus, 200 billion, 500 billion, a trillion, something in that sort of range. Then you're covered. If you can't do that, you may benefit from the rectal administration. As with all probiotics, you have to find your Goldilocks zone. So you start with a small dose and increase your dose over time. This isn't about creating a massive die-off reaction or a Herxheimer reaction and making yourself feel terrible. That's not how healing works. We want to help the microbiome to work alongside the immune system, alongside the nervous system, to help to cultivate health instead of trying to force it. You cannot brute force your way to healing. It does not work. We have to cultivate healing. It's a process that requires finesse. You have to be delicate. It requires a lot of love and compassion and care. But hopefully, if you've been struggling with oral probiotics or you're dealing with SIBO or SIFO, this gives you a different angle to attack or to approach this problem, because this is a fully solvable problem. I've seen hundreds of people completely resolve it. It's really important that we work on your microbiome. It is one of the most fundamental parts of gut healing. And hopefully this gives you a tool to help you do it. So let me know. If you're going to give it a shot, leave me a comment below. If you've already tried it, leave me a comment below. And if you have any questions or doubts or hesitations or anything, please also let me know and I'll get back to you. If you feel like you need a little bit of personalized support to help you with this or anything else that I talk about on this channel, gut healing, autoimmunity, trauma, whatever it is, shoot me an email, support@williamdickinson.co.uk, and I'll be happy to give you a hand. So that's everything from me today. You take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.